folks, and welcome to part 2 of my little inversions in detail series. Thank you for joining me and allowing me to share this practice with you. And of course, as always, let me know if you have any questions and I'll be more than happy to help you out in the comments. Today we're going to be working on Pincha Mayurasana, forearm balance, or Pincha Mayurasana translates as peacock feather posture. So if you're wondering what the name means, that's where it comes from. It's what I would consider an advanced posture, in that it requires a sense of strength, a sense of openness or flexibility in the body, and it also requires a good sense of balance. So generally speaking, the advanced postures require all three of those elements to be more or less in harmony. Simpler postures tend to require just one or two of those elements. So I want you to bear that in mind. It's not just about being strong, it's not just about being flexible, it's not just about having a sense of balance, it's about combining all of those three elements. And I also want to just make it really, really clear from the outset that we need to make sure that we're not forming attachment to our asana practice. So particularly with the sort of fancy advanced postures, there's a tendency for the ego to get attached to them. And remember always that our practice is about freeing ourselves up from the ego. So there's nothing wrong with exploring the advanced postures and enjoying them. But if you get frustrated when you're not getting them, or when you feel like you're not progressing, really just be attentive to that as being simply another way that the ahamkara, the sense of ego self, is trying to restrict you or contain you or make you associate with it. So practice for the joy of the practice, not with any sense of attainment. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Enjoy the practice, but if you can or can't do it, don't worry either way. It's not going to make you a better person, and it's not going to fundamentally help you if you don't pay attention to what the ego is doing. So, I'm going to start off just with a couple of simple preparatory postures. One of the things that's really important to understand with forearm balance is it's really about opening the shoulders and building strength in them in an open position. So to begin with, we're just going to start with a little shoulder stretch. And you can see I've switched the camera around to give a little perspective on the wall here. We need to have a bit of wall space in order to work with these postures. So to begin with, all we're going to do is a straight arm stretch. It's a bit like doing down dog on the side, and here we're working with stretch but not with strength. So we start with the hands shoulder width apart. A little wider than shoulder width is okay, not too much, but not narrower. And we want to make sure that the hands are at the same height. Often, if we're a little uneven through the shoulders, one hand will unconsciously be higher than the other. So we press the hands gently into the wall, and then we move our hips back. And what we're trying to do here is drop the head down between the elbows, and to the best of our ability, make a straight line from the wrists to the hips. Now, we're not looking for a hamstring stretch here, so if you need to bend your knees, that's fine. But focus on creating, as best you can, a straight line from the hands to the hips. And it's a really nice one to hold for a little bit. So staying there for at least 30 seconds, but ideally a minute or so. And focus on keeping the shoulders moving wide so they're not shrugging, but also a sense of pressing the upper chest down towards the floor and letting your head drop down as well. So a nice, simple, unloaded, straight arm stretch. You could also work with down dog as another variation. So if you think of that as an unweighted down dog, we can do the same thing in down face dog to get the same sense of stretch through the shoulders, but now with a little bit of weight on the hand. So we're starting to add a strength component to the posture. Again, you can see we're trying to make here a straight line from the hands to the hips as best we can. And again, the shoulders are moving wide. From there, the next variation that I like to work with is really a shoulder opening posture with the elbows bent, so it's getting into that Pincha Mayurasana position. And I'm not a fan of using props in this posture, because if you use the props, your body's going to rely on them. We want the body to be independent, to be self-supporting. So if you need to use a block to stop your hands moving together, it means you're just relying on the block and you're not activating the muscles in the way that we need to in order to hold that forearm balance position. So we're always trying to keep a sense of the hands pushing away from each other and the elbows squeezing in. And as I say, if you're using a block or a strap around your elbows, your body is never going to build the strength in the range of motion that we're working with. So just bear that in mind. Try not to use props if you can. In this case, they're not really going to help you. So for our second variation, again, we take the elbows to the wall, shoulder width apart. Hands are in line with the elbows. So again, we're making sort of like a box or a square with the forearms. And then again, we're trying to drop the head through and make a straight line from elbows to hips. And this is much stronger than the straight arm variation. We want again to keep that sense of the chest dropping down, the head dropping down. And as I mentioned, the elbows will want to splay out, the hands will want to squeeze in, but try to resist those two movements by pushing the hands wide and squeezing the elbows in. So you're activating the muscles at the end of their range of motion. And again, it's a good one to hold for a minute or so. You can repeat it a couple of times. And afterwards, I always like to give the shoulders a little bit of a roll just to make them feel comfortable. Now, just a little note, in many respects, forearm balance is the most demanding of the inverted postures, certainly in what it asks of the shoulders. So handstand, although it's more difficult to balance in a handstand, it's much easier on the shoulders. Forearm balance, Pincha Mayurasana, requires the most openness and strength in the shoulders of all the inversions. So just bear that in mind, it does take quite some time to get comfortable with it. Our next little preparation posture would be a forearm down dog. So again, we can place the hands down. I'll turn a bit more sideways so you can maybe see a little bit better. Hands are just shoulder width apart. We want to lower down, keeping the forearms parallel. And then again, that sense of pressing out through the chest. So we're trying to create that opening through the shoulders. And again, good one to hold there for a little bit. So adding a bit of strength to that opening position. And always coming out symmetrically, just as you went down symmetrically. Give the shoulders a little roll. And the next variations are simply adding more weight. So we're taking now full body weight, but without the need to balance. So next variation, we can walk up the wall backwards. So we want to be starting straight arms. So not too close to the wall, maybe here about just a little under a metre away perhaps. And then you can get a bit closer if you feel okay with it. Hands are shoulder width apart. And this is a good preparation for handstand as well. We take a big step up the wall with one leg, big step with the other one, and then again we try to recreate that sense of straight line from hands through shoulders to hips. If that means just bringing the hips back a little bit, that's fine. Not important. I actually like to just stay with the body fairly straight and press the armpits towards the wall. That way you're working to open the shoulders a little bit more. And to come back down, we just step back down. Next variation, of course, is the same thing on the forearms. Now, again, because we're loading the body more, or loading the shoulders more with full body weight, the hands will want to squeeze in, the elbows will want to squeeze out. Remember that the posture, or let's say the final posture, isn't that important. This isn't about whether or not you can balance on your forearms. It's about whether you can open the shoulders and keep them strong in that open position. So as we work towards the final position, I want you to be really, really mindful of that. That if you can balance on your forearms, but your hands are together, then you're really missing the point of the posture. It's about keeping that open position, the forearms parallel with each other, and getting the shoulders strong in that externally rotated position. So, Forearms stay parallel. And again, we just take a big step up with one leg, big step up with the other leg, and away we go into our little forearm balance preparation, loaded, open, but without the need to balance. So of course, we're leaning on the wall. And we can hang out there for a bit. The head here should not be on the floor. So you're trying to push the elbows down as much as you can so that the head is completely free of the floor. Otherwise, it's a headstand. And we release the same way we went up. And again, good to give the shoulders a little roll. If you're following along with me and you've done all of that, you'll be getting a bit warm by now and your shoulders will be starting to feel like they're working. That's good. That's what we want to do. Make them strong and make them open. Then final position, of course, is working towards balancing on the forearms. So we've worked with flexibility and strength. Now we're adding that sense of balance component to it. Now, you can, when you're working with forearm balance, keep the body really close into the wall. But I actually like to just be a little bit away from the wall because it gives you a chance to explore your point of balance a little bit more freely. If you're too close to the wall, as soon as you go a tiny bit out of balance, your feet will hit the wall and you'll rely on it to maintain your balance. So I like to be just a little bit further back from the wall, knowing that it's there to catch you if you go too far, but you're not relying on it all the time. And remember, ideally, as you're refining this practice, you're not trying to kick up to the wall, you're trying to kick up to the balance point. And again, the wall is there to stop you if you go too far. But bear that in mind, we're trying to kick up to the balance point, not to the wall. So, we find our way, maybe hands, let's say here 20-ish centimeters away from the wall. Again, we could go a little further back if you're comfortable. And again, we check that the forearms are parallel, elbows are even, hands are even. We lift the hips up. And you want to try and walk in a little bit closer if you can. Then to kick up, try and keep one leg really straight and just hop off the other leg. And again, we're trying to find that balance point. And once you're there, I like to look back. Now that does make the balance a bit trickier, but it allows you to open the shoulders and get the body a little bit straighter. So here again, like in our stretch variations, we're trying to press the chest forward and open through the shoulders and upper back. Now, of course, if you overbalance, the wall's just there. Take one leg away, try to explore the balance point in a mini split, and then come back. And again, the head is free of the floor. And we lower down the same way we went up. Now, for those of you that are getting quite comfortable with all of those variations, things you can do to make it a bit more fun, you'll notice that you have a dominant leg. So I want you to work on kicking up with both legs so that eventually you can kick up with either one equally well. Once you've got a really good sense of balance, you can move away from the wall, or ideally practice outside on the grass would be the best bet to initially work with balance. And I just want to make one thing really, really clear. If you're working without a backstop behind you, like a wall, and you overbalance, it's vitally important that you don't try and twist out of the posture. All you need to do is tuck your chin in and let the body go over, and you'll just do a forward roll. I know it seems scary. I haven't got the space to show you, unfortunately, in this room, or not with the camera wide enough to take it all in. But if you do overbalance without a backstop, just tuck your chin under, let the body go over, and all that'll happen is you'll do a forward roll. And that's where being on the grass is really nice, because it's nice and soft to roll on. If you twist, you are at serious risk of injuring your shoulders, so please don't do that. You need to learn to fall in order to feel comfortable with the balance, but make sure you feel comfortable with the balance with a backstop before you start playing around without a backstop. And of course, there's variations there. You can do lotus in that position. You can take the scorpion in that position. But let's just work on getting a nice straight, not curve back Pincha Mayurasana to begin with. If the back is really curved, it's a sign that your shoulders are still really tight and you need to work on opening the shoulders a little bit more to get that straight position. So I hope that makes sense. As always, any questions, let me know. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're enjoying these practices, just click the subscription button and the notification bell. And yeah, thank you very much. And I look forward to sharing with you again soon. And that's it for Pincha Mayurasana, forearm balance or peacock feather posture.